Hey there, ladies. Nice to see you back again, and I'd like to wrap up this last session with really a roundup, a plethora, a whole list of different strategies that you can implement in your life to find more joy, more laughter, more satisfaction in your mothering. A lot less guilt and condemnation and, I'm the worst mother on the face of the earth type stuff. Are you with me? All right. Well, because I am in my mid to late 40s, I'm going to have to put on my readers for this. So here we go. The first thing I want you to know is that your children are never too young and they're never too old to hear you say, "I was wrong, I'm sorry," and to ask for their forgiveness. I've had mothers as old as 80, 84 years old who have spoken to me about guilt about their actions as it was propelled by anger towards their children. And her son now, when she was speaking to me at the time, was like 60 some odd years old. So we can carry a burden for this a very long time. So I want to assure you that it's never too late. As long as we have breath, as long as we are able to communicate, it's never too late to say those words. Now, whether your children receive those, especially in their teenage years, a little bit older, and adulthood certainly, whether they receive them, whether they accept them, and whether they articulate back to you, "Yes, I forgive you," well, that's up to them, and you can't control that. And I would really encourage you not to go at it, approach it with this idea of, well, I'm going to say this, so of course they have to forgive me. This is just more of a humbling. This is more of that heart change that many of us are going to experience, where we realize we were wrong. We could have done things a lot different, and we flat out just messed up. And saying those words, "I love you, I was wrong, will you forgive me?" So, good place to start. Top to toe thanks. I told the ladies about this last week. I encourage you, especially with a child that is your least favorite child at the end of the day. Oh, come on, we have those sometimes. The one that you want to put to bed as early as possible, and you want them to stay in bed as long as possible. With that child, I want you to do top to toe thanks, and that's simply holding them in your arms, laying next to them in bed, perhaps letting them lay across your lap, scratching their back, rubbing their feet. Whatever love language of touch is a way that they enjoy. Or maybe you're driving in the car and both of your eyes are focused straight ahead. Sometimes a dark room and a car is some of the best times to speak, especially with our junior high, our adolescents, and with our teenagers. There's a lot less pressure of seeing each other and looking at one another. But I want you to audibly give thanks for that child. I want you to say it out loud. Your children need to hear this. They need to hear you say, "I'm so glad I have you." Not had, past tense, but have, present tense. The way that you are now. Your squirrely little toddler self. Your little baby infant colicky self. Your teenager, you're breaking my heart sometimes self. They need to hear this. So you start at the top of their head and work your way down. And sometimes you'll just have to, "Oh, thank you. So glad and so thankful for Ricky's hair that sticks straight up and never lays down very well for a family photo." And, it may be difficult because your heart towards them isn't quite that soft. But here's the reality of this. This is why this is so important, that you're speaking truth because you love your children. It's never a question of whether you love them. You would rescue them out of a home if it was on fire. You would, you're looking at traffic and you're protecting them, and all times being aware of that. You love your child, but they need to hear this. And so I want you to speak those words to them of thanksgiving, because what happens, it's not about the child as much as it's about what God is going to do in your life. And I guarantee you, you will rarely get past the shoulders before your heart is softening for that child. And by the time you get to their toes, you probably will have a tear or two, or maybe find it difficult to speak because your heart's so full of love and thanksgiving. And that is a good thing. And our children can never, ever hear enough from the lips of their mother their thanks for who they are in their creation. I want you to rediscover laughter in your home and in your relationship with your children. You know, we take mothering so seriously. I mean, it's like it's a job. You know, I think oftentimes we make motherhood an idol. We set it up so high as if it's the end-all be-all, and it's a lot of pressure. And if you decide to stay home, well, you've got to do it right. And if you're working out of the home, well, you've got to do it right to prove that you can do it right. If you're homeschooling, well, you better homeschool well. And if they're going to public school, I mean, we just put all these pressures on one another and ourselves. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to exhale, and I want you to simply think about what you're doing as a mom. I want you to think about the important things, and I want you to rediscover laughter. Find movies that you can enjoy together and have quotes that it's like a little secret language between you and your children and your husband and the children. We know we love The Princess Bride, and we love the movie Monsters, Inc. And that's one of our favorite lines. One time we were in church and this character from Monsters, Inc. came up on the big screen, and at the exact same moment, my son, my middle child, the one that pushed all my buttons and should get royalties from the book she's going to blow. He was about 15 years old, and he leaned forward and turned and looked at me, and I leaned forward, turned and looked at him, exact same moment, and we said to one another, "I'm watching you, Wazowski, always watching, always." That's Roz, the character from Monsters, Inc. And it's just important that you have these fun things to do. You can also play a game. It's called the 185 game, and it's a pun game. And it's simply making up puns and talking, you know, around the mix with the family. It goes, here, I'll give you an example. 185 bras walked into a bar, and the bartender said, "I'm sorry, we don't serve bras here." And the bras said, "Oh man, we brought our own cups." All right, okay, so if you don't like them going to a bar, have them go into a Christian bookstore or something. But it's a fun game, a word game, especially as the kids are a little bit older, you know, can start to understand puns. But I have to tell you, we laughed so hard playing that, and was really able to pick up on the temperaments and the dynamics of our family. The other thing I want you to do is I want you to know your child. I want you to know their temperament. How is your child hardwired? Is your child a thinker? Is your child one that has to process their feelings and process their thoughts? If they are, you cannot effectively mother that child and demand of them emotionally something that they are unable, they're not wired to do. For example, my daughter, very much a child that when you said something to her, little sarcasm or satire, something like that, she didn't catch the humor of it. It usually hurt her. Or if a friend would have said something kind of flippant to her, you know, my personality, my temperament, I'd been more like, whatever, you know, doesn't bother me. But Kristen felt that very deeply. So I had to learn the way she was wired, and I needed to learn. Some of you have children that are wired, and they're wired, they need rest. The way they are energized is through quiet time. The way that they're energized is through schedule and routine. And you are not a schedule and routine woman or mother. And part of you thinks, well, you know what? This is the way I roll. They just need to deal with it. Well, I'm telling you, you're going to have a lot of freakouts and meltdowns in the middle of Sears department store when the little guy that needs a nap loses it, all right? So I want to encourage you to get to know who your children are. Gosh, there's so many other ones I want you to do. I want you to repeat, "This too shall pass," because that is truth. This too shall pass. I want you to stop the sarcastic and biting humor. Some of you may be prone, like me, to that's kind of how you articulate your anger, but you really have to bite your tongue and draw back on that, because it's actually a weapon, the way that we use that. I want you to consider, again, if it could be depression with this ongoing anger, if it's possible that that there's something going on chemically within your own body that needs to be balanced. Those are all important things. I've enjoyed speaking with you, and I really hope that this opens a conversation amongst all of you, that you might be able to be more vulnerable, more honest, and more real, and that you will find lasting change, more joy, more laughter in your heart, in your home. And you are welcome to friend me on Facebook, or to send me an email, julie@juliebarnhill.com, and to tell me your story. You guys take care, and hopefully those DVDs will arrive within the next couple of days, and you'll be able to pop those in and enjoy the information in those.